Let's see what Lee in South Africa has to say. Thanks for joining us from there. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'd like to ask a question. If, as far as we are concerned, we're looking at Hillary Clinton as opposed to Obama. I mean, he won the contest between him and her. Now, why should there be a big issue made out of the race thing in the election when he won the ticket for the Democratic Party?
Okay, I guess one of the questions I guess are being raised here, Sam. One of the questions being raised here is the issue of gender, how much it's changed the way American voters might look at the gender issue, how much it's changed the way that people look at the race issue. Do you think there's been a dramatic shift?
Well, certainly, this has been a historic election with both Senator Clinton's candidacy and Governor Palin, and of course, Senator Obama being the first African-American.
Although women were in the race before and African-Americans were as well.
That's true, but they seem to have more prominence this time. But we still find in our polling women are favoring Senator Obama by 13 points right now, despite Governor Palin being on the McCain ticket or any possible dispute with Senator Clinton during the primary season. So. It's kind of a wash.
Right. Michael Maslansky, we've got a case where whoever takes the White House, the House and Senate are still likely to be, certainly the House, very strongly Democratic now. What chance do you feel there is of such a strong victory for the Democrats, both in the Senate elections and with the White House and perhaps the House the way it stands, of getting virtually a filibuster-proof government in place, something that really can't be touched? They can do what they want.
Look, I think that this is a perfect storm for Republicans. There really is nothing that has worked in Republicans' favor during this election cycle that is there that can put a stop to the shift towards a Democratic Congress, House, Senate, and presidency. So I think it's a very real risk that the Democrats take 60 seats in the Senate. My sense is that they're more likely to end up at 58 or 59. And 20 or more seats in the House, which makes this an entirely Democratic Congress and administration. It to my mind, makes the responsibility even greater for Democrats in terms of how they govern. And in some ways, there's going to be a real battle between Obama and the pragmatists among the Democratic Party and the real left-leaners in the Democratic Party who see this as a vindication of their liberal agenda and want to really pull the entire government in their direction.
Now, Chris, there are some...
Which is, by the way, I don't think what that's...
Yeah. Chris, I was going to say there are some traditionally very solid Republican seats that are likely to fall to the Democrats. Just taking a few examples, Elizabeth Dole in North Carolina, Saxby Chambliss in Georgia, Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, and even in Minnesota, it could be the case that comedian Al Franken gets in. What do you think has resulted in this shift?
Which would be the least funniest thing of all. One thing I can tell you, look, the Senate was designed to be a deliberative body, and so gaining a filibuster-proof Senate is going to prove difficult. But with all of that said, and I actually think they'll get to 57, 58, with all of that, the Democrats, I mean, with all of that said, the fact is that this is going to be a tough year for Republicans. You have one of the most, or the most, unpopular president on record, and the fact that Barack Obama is not winning by more right now simply says that he's running as a liberal, or he is a liberal. He has the most liberal record in the U.S. Senate in a country that's just to the right of center. And so, with all of that said, Democrats are going to have a good year. Republicans are going to lose seats, but I don't believe they'll get to a filibuster-proof Senate.
Okay, Sam, what sort of backlash might there be? Because traditionally it's known that Americans don't like to have one party completely in charge in the country.
Well, it's going to be tough to govern for either President McCain or President Obama, but let's assume for a second that President Obama has large control in the House and the Senate, similar to what President Carter had in 1976. It's tough because the Democratic Party isn't monolithic. There's a liberal wing, there's a moderate wing, and there's even a conservative wing, some blue dog Democrats, and you've got to find a way to work with all of them. And you have to remember that some of these members of Congress have to run again in 2 years and have to be able to defend their positions. So it's not going to be an easy case for either one.
Now, Michael, what are the Republicans going to have to do to reposition themselves either way after this race? No matter who gets in the White House, there's still the issue of how the Republican Party stands, divided in so many areas.
Yeah, I think the Republican Party has to figure out what it's going to stand for the 21st century. And I think that the biggest reason why the Republicans are where they are today is because they've lost that compass. Are they going to be a socially conservative party and try and build a mandate that way? Are they going to go back to their roots as a combination of being a fiscally conservative party with kind of a social values base as well? They've lost that. I mean, the record of George Bush, which is what's frustrated a lot of Republicans, I think rightly so, is not representative of what a lot of these people became Republicans for. And so the Republicans have to figure out who they want to be. The Democrats have done a much better job, and this is the first time in a long time that they've done a much better job in defining what the party is going to stand for the future, but the Republicans don't know. And I think just on the previous point, I think that there is a real chance that with a Democratic House, Senate, and presidency, that the biggest fights that we see next year are actually between the liberal wing and those kind of pragmatist centrists in the Democratic Party who believe that this is supposed to be a mandate for consensus-driven policy rather than a mandate for liberal change, and that could be really where the action is next year.
Okay, well, Michael, thank you very much, and I want to thank Chris as well, and Sam, we've run out of time, but thank you all for taking part in this debate. We'll speak to you again soon, I hope.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for being with us. The next Riz Khan Show comes to you at a special time, live 4 hours earlier at 16:30 GMT as part of Al Jazeera's special coverage of the US election. We'll be talking with former Speaker Denny Hastert and Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Clarence Page, so be sure to tune in for that. And just send your questions and comments in advance to riz@aljazeera.net. From me and the team, we'll see you next time.